So, have you ever started a game series due to your friends constantly hyping it up, only to become far more invested with the journey than you first ever thought you would be? For some, that may be something like Kingdom Hearts or Dragon Quest. For others, it might be something like Tales of Games or even Wild Arms, if anyone remembers that series. But for me, this series was Trails in the Sky. I got recommended the Trails series to like hell and back from my friends on Twitter. They were always talking about how this game was pinnacle of fiction, how it saved their marriages, how it opened up their third eye, how it was one of the greatest pieces of media. And as a result, I got rather intrigued, and so I decided to play it, after quite a bit of wearing down. And I gotta say, I'm really glad I did. The game was a lot of fun. From its story to its gameplay, I enjoyed pretty much all of it. The game isn't exactly perfect, however. It's got some faults that I want to talk about. And without further ado, let's get into it. I hope you enjoy my first review of Trails in the Sky. So I want to start off with the positives of this game first, as there is a lot I want to praise this game for, and we're going to start with the characters. One of the single best aspects of this game is just how well it defines its characters. From the main leads Joshua and Estelle, to the party members you meet throughout the game like Oliver and Tito. Every character gets a moment to shine and grow as a person throughout the storyline. Even the dickwad Agate has a moment that warms him up to the party. The way each character is written really shows Falcom really wanted you to get attached to these characters. A large part of this is due to several party members outside of Joshua and Estelle actively leaving the party for large amounts of time, so you never have the problem of having more characters than necessary to focus on at a time, giving everybody enough time to grow without ever feeling like anyone's really forgotten. Another big part of that attachment comes from the dialogue. The back and forth dialogue from Trails is very, very well done. There are games that try to be witty with their dialogue and end up kind of failing. A good example of this is something like Forspoken.
With my mind.
I just keep hearing I.
I just move shit with my freaking mind!
Where the dialogue tries to be witty and clever but fails pretty hard. Thankfully, the writers behind Trails dialogue do a great job at making it all feel super fun to hear. Like, I can't tell you how many times I was just cracking up at the jokes in this game due to how well it flowed out of the characters. It's a lot of fun, but characters and dialogue are not the only things you experience throughout this game. There is also combat to play through, and it is quite good. The combat is a mix of grid-based and turn-based combat. You move around the arena to attack enemies and gain experience, while utilizing normal attacks, magic attacks, or craft abilities. It's a solid system and gameplay loop that never really gets boring, mostly in part due to the orbment system that allows for multiple different ways to build your team. If you want to balance them out fairly, go ahead, but if you want to make one more character far more attack focused and another more magic focused, you can do that too. It's fun, but it's not perfect, something we will get to later of course. Up next is graphics, and while I never really care much for graphics, being far more focused on gameplay instead, I gotta say, this game has aged very well with its textures. The models for the characters are okay looking, they could be a bit better, I admit, but these backgrounds look pretty damn timeless. Can't really think of a single time I looked at the areas and ever thought they were ugly or unappealing. Not that I was super looking or anything, but still. I also gotta say that I am very impressed by this game's enemy variety. I wasn't really expecting a whole lot, just a decent amount of enemies with some reskins down the line. But there was a shocking amount of enemies in the game. I don't think I've ever seen a single one be reused, which is honestly pretty damn impressive considering how several RPGs reuse assets to save time. Looking at you, Ryza. Now, as for the matter of story, which is something that I would love to talk about, trust me, I would really love to talk about the story, I'm gonna have to skip over that, as it would be massive spoilers for the game, and the story is without a doubt the best part of this game, so I don't want to spoil it for anyone who grew interested in this game from the review. Except for one part, but we'll get to that later, trust me. so I'm going to keep my pie hole shut on the whole thing. The only thing I'm going to say about it though is that it is very, very good, with a lot of twists that kept me incredibly invested the whole time, especially that final twist. Oh boy, I was blown away. Now on to my final pro, and this is something I don't really see a lot of people really appreciate enough, and that's the character designs of everyone in the party. I honestly really like the simplicity of them all. Several JRPGs have a protagonist that is just decked out from head to toe in some crazy over-the-top outfit, and while I love that shit to pieces, don't get me wrong, it's kinda nice to see a cast of JRPG characters dressed like they're going on an adventure instead of a nu metal concert at the local theater. Okay, those are my pros all out for everyone to see. Now let's move on to the cons of this game. Alrighty, so I spent a good majority of the first part of this video sucking off this game something fierce. So now it's time I got into the problems I had with it. Now I'm going to start off with my main gripes before I get to the minor nitpicks. First and foremost, I do not like how quests are handled in this game. Throughout the game, you can accept quests from the Bracer Guild for both cash and points to increase your Bracer rank. But instead of just being choosable whenever, they are all set on a timer, meaning that you can lose out on the chance to do a quest without you even knowing until later. I never liked the idea of timed quests in RPGs, as I've always thought it was a dumb idea and that they're just annoying in general. And after a while, I just decided to skip over the Bracer quests after the first chapter, as they weren't really worth micromanaging my time for, and all the money I could have gotten from doing those quests I could just get from selling the sets I got from fights. On another note, I gotta mention something about the combat. While I did really enjoy it, especially all those cool S-craft attacks, I gotta say I'm also kind of disappointed that there's no team S-craft attacks. I would have liked to see Joshua and Estelle have a team up, or Agate and Tita, or Zin and Oliver. It just feels like a strangely missed opportunity for a game that's so focused on having characters together. Even more so when you realize how every chapter gives you new party members to fight with. I'm also not a massive fan of how they hand out experience. In Trails, the amount of experience you earn from enemies is lowered for every level you gain. It makes sense in the standpoint of not wanting the player to be too overpowered, but it also kind of kills the interest of entering battles when once you've reached a set level, you're just gaining like 2 to 4 experience points in a fight. It's certainly not a game breaker, but it is certainly annoying. I'm also not really all that impressed with most of the music. Now, there are some absolute bangers in this game, like the Silver Wolf theme, but other than a select few others, there's not really a whole lot to talk about. Everything's just kind of meh. Not terrible, but I can't really see myself humming it because I enjoyed it. Next up, those stealth sections. Now, I never really like stealth sections in games that aren't built around them. I didn't like it in Ocarina of Time, I didn't like it in Castlevania, and I don't like it in this. They're boring time wasters, plain and simple. Thankfully, those sections are all incredibly short, so they don't get overly annoying, but you do kind of wish they're not there. And finally, let's talk about the pacing. Now, for pretty much 80% of the game, Trails has some pretty good pacing throughout all of its chapters. And then you get to the final chapter, which, oh boy, feels like they crammed 2 chapters into one, and I don't mean that in a good way, like at all. I personally feel like they were 2 chapters originally, but then Falcom just kind of decided to put them together since both are tied to the finale. And to be honest, I'm hoping that doesn't pop up in the other games. And oof, the less we talk about that final boss fight, the better. Man, did they drop the ball on that shit. It got annoying. That boss almost made me not want to pick up the rest of the series, if I'm being honest. Thankfully, while I was streaming this game, my friend told me that the bosses do get a lot better, and plus that final scene was just too goddamn good to ignore not going to the next game. I'm just praying that every final chapter doesn't take forever to get through like the first one, or maybe that is just a friend betraying my dear innocent heart. Just realized this one probably should have gone up front, considering that it's a bigger complaint. But whatever, it's my video, I can do what I want. And yeah, that's the end of my first ever Trails review. I honestly don't have anything else to say other than go play the game for yourself. Sorry if this wasn't the best review in the world. I haven't really done many of these before, and I'm hoping to improve as time goes on, and as we get through more and more Trails games, hopefully I'll be able to do these a lot better. But the second one will have to wait until after Final Fantasy XVI is out, since that's going to be the main focus of the channel when it finally drops. If you like this review and want to support the channel, drop a like and a sub. If you agree or disagree with anything in the video, let me know in the comments and on how things I could improve on. And if you ever want to shout outside of YouTube, follow me over on Twitch or Twitter. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. See you next time.